Welcome back to part B of the help side of Anna Flanagan. Now, if you missed part A, head back and check it out. Anna talks us through some of the highlights of her career and also what it took to build a brand around the athlete. Now, we'll rip into part B, where we talk mental health and the future of hockey. Let's go.
Easton brings in, it's Flanagan, it's a goal, and Australia take the lead. Anna Flanagan's first goal at the World Cup.
I want to talk about that, your new degree and mental health, because this is something that you're very active in that space. You're an ambassador for Headspace, and you've spoken openly in the past about various eating disorders that have been a part of your career. Mm-hmm. Do you want to just talk to us a little bit about your journey with mental health?
Yeah, I feel like I've had sort of every mental health issue kind of thrown at me. You know, even in retirement life, there's certain things, I'm dealing with now. That's a whole new battle. But I think for me, I've always had an addictive personality and I channeled it into sport. Like, that's why I was going above and beyond in my training. I was like, I'm going to do more, I'm going to do more. And that very easily switched to when I was younger, being told my skin folds were too high, not having the knowledge to realise that, I'm 16, I'm a female, I'm probably going to be a bit chubs. Whereas I took that completely seriously and was eating so healthy that I dropped weight like that, and it was over Junior World Cup, and so then I basically lost my muscle. I was so young, I could hardly run, and that then became my excuse for why I was so I started being shit at hockey. I was just like, oh well, and it was just a control thing, and I would not wish any sort on anyone, and I know it's so common in female sport, but it's just it was control, and I didn't know how to get out of it or how to fix it, and it was because there's so much shame and stigma, and so I couldn't talk about it. No one knew. It was very hidden, like a lot of lies, because people could kind of tell, but yeah, it wasn't until I basically I'd almost retired that I was open about it. But it was once I'd gotten over that and was able to talk about it, and that enough time had passed because it was so raw. But it basically could have killed me. And it wasn't too far from then to when I was playing for Australia. And it was all from different comments around body shape and appearances, like, if you do this, you'll get picked. So in my head, I've taken that totally literally and run with it, and then it's turned into a full-blown disorder. And it's one that's really, really hard to get on top of, because it is about control. And jumping from that to whether it be eating disorder, it can go to alcohol, to drugs, whatever. It's being able to get control of that addictive part in my brain, and just do things a lot differently. And so now that I've gone through a lot of these processes and I'm understanding it more, and I've had a lot of therapy. Everyone can always never have too much therapy. It's that I actually really like talking and sharing what I went through and what I did, or what other people can do, and how that can help them. And then that's where I felt really fulfilled. And when I was able to teach it, that's when I could actually learn it and practice it myself. So it was actually almost like it sounds like, I want to help people, very pat on the back. But it was actually quite a selfish decision I want to help people because it makes me feel good, and then I can understand my own processes, what I have to do to make sure that I'm mentally okay and I'm mentally free and at peace with myself and what's going on. And a lot of that is serving others. And when I can teach them what I have, then I can go about my day. So yeah, it was quite a selfish decision why I started studying that, and initially it was when I wasn't working, but I liked the idea of getting into that community service, drug and alcohol rehab space, and just being able to help, and then it also helps me. So I found it like this mutually beneficial space if I finish my course.
When's the estimated time?
Next year.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have to do 160 hours of prac.
Right.
figure it out.
Figure it out. So there are a lot of statistics, just keeping on this mental health train for a little while. There are a lot of statistics out published by the AIS maybe last year that there's a there's a high incidence of mental health in athletes. Do you think that was something that definitely, like, just being an athlete and being in that high performance environment really didn't help you at a young age? Do you think that?
It's a tough one. I think elite sport is so hard. It is so difficult because you have these really big highs and these really big lows, and it's such, it's not easy at all, and it's so extreme. And people have said to me in like my post-hockey life, they're like, you're attracted to drama, because I think I look for those extremes, like outside of that, because that's what you kind of get used to as well. But yeah, I think when you are younger, and especially coming from Canberra, everything, I didn't have a hard run. Like, I was in a team in Canberra where we always won. Like, I didn't have much resilience. And so going in from that to then the next level, or next 5 levels, it skyrocketed pretty quickly. At that age, I just didn't have the resilience to be able to deal with it. And so, but it is really hard to tell. I think, I did go over when I was 19. I still think I probably wasn't ready. I probably could have stayed home for longer before I went over. Even though, you'd hope you'd be pretty mature at 19, but I think I was pretty mature. I relied on my parents a lot. In saying that, I grew up really quickly. So
in Perth, like once you got there.
In Perth, living by myself overseas, going through all of this, trying to do it by myself. That was probably the worst part, is that I felt like I couldn't bring anyone in. I didn't want to seem weak or that I couldn't do it. And not using, services around me, or having someone to just be like, I don't know what I'm doing here, or is this normal, or not being able to have that, I think, is quite difficult. Perth is so far removed, and so I'm really wary at being I think the girls coming in too young, especially then, not getting into study, not doing any of that, not having a life balance. It's such a risk, because I know for me, when I had all of my eggs in hockey, in one basket, especially when I was, year 12, that's when I did get quite sick. When hockey went, I felt like I had nothing. And I just didn't have that knowledge to have other things in my life that would be like, okay, if hockey's not going so well, I'll just shift over to here for a bit and do this and have family and social and work or study, whatever it was. It was just like, this is all or nothing. And went for nothing for me, that meant like a deep depression. And yeah, so I didn't have that I guess that resilience. And it wasn't that, my parents, my dad, like, he was really hard on me, so I wasn't allowed to cry. I should have had a lot of resilience, but it's, everyone's different, and so I'm wary, I think, of the kids coming into the program in all sports to age, I think, are too young. I think there's like a rugby league player they're trying to get signed now who's 17, and I'm like, just give him another year, just to grow up a bit, like. But in saying that, if someone told me that when I was 17, I'd tell them where to go, because I was like, I'm ready 2 years ago. It's a hard one.
Is this something that you've really reflected on post-retirement, or were you aware of, obviously you're aware of how you're feeling at the time, but you mentioned as well, it's really hard to get yourself kind of out of that. Is this something that you've really reflected on a lot post-retirement, or is this something that you're actively really trying to work on while you were playing? Or
partly while I was playing, but mostly post. I wish I had more, I guess, tools, that I was more open and sharing what was going on a lot more freely. But yeah, it's really, I think, for me, I was just like, oh, what if that psychologist, who's the team psychologist, tells the coaches? Like, I was very worried about what other people thought. And it's only since probably moving to Sydney, even was playing, is just being open and sharing. And everyone has like their own shit, and everyone's so understanding. And then once you're open, then someone else will open up to you, and you create this dialogue, and it's really freeing. So it's been more since I've, I guess, stopped playing hockey, and once I've come to Sydney, it's that, speaking those truths when things aren't going well, or when they are, sort of that sets you free, and you're not sort of stuck in your head. And that can be, especially being in Perth and in this little bubble, can be a really difficult place to be in. And, you know, I think I started too young. Like, I think, in hindsight, it'd be better if I was a bit older, had a bit more resilience. Would I have still had the same, like, issues coming and going? No. And do I regret anything? No, because it's leading me, like, exactly where I'm meant to be now. And I believe that, you know, there is a path for me, and, like, that's all come from all of that experience, like the good, the bad. It'll lead to hopefully some of the best things in my life, whatever that is.
Is that what you'd say to your younger self? Keep going?
I'd be like, get out now! Quit now! Yeah, I think it would just be to be patient. I wanted everything to happen so quickly. And, like, it's okay if you get dropped. It's okay. Like, these things happen. It's not the end of the world. I think it's such a hard place when you're a fringe player, and that's probably where most of the people who will reach out, it's when they're having those issues, being like, I don't know where I'm sitting. And that's usually when people are feeling like shit because they don't have that security. But that's okay. I think it's more just being present and just, like, whatever happens, if you do, you know, you just do your best what you can, and then you've got your balance in life, and having that balance as well, it's also you can perform. It's not like having balance so it'll take away. It's just fulfilling, I guess, those other areas of your life so that you play better. So your hockey is still your number one priority. It just means, like, mentally you're going to be a lot stronger.
It sounds like, I mean, you mentioned before your parents are both athlete welfare and education. It sounds like you have firstly, a lot of experience, but also a real interest in, I guess, younger people and showing people perhaps what's best with their career. Is that a path that you see yourself going down after all this? I don't know if it would be career advice. I don't think I'd be anyone career advice. I mean, you're working on your fourth. I mean, they can't. But I think it would be in that, in that mental well-being space. It's really hard to talk to people who haven't experienced that, and then to engage and try relate. And so I think that's then potentially why there are people that ask me these questions, because they know, so they don't feel embarrassed or bad, because they're like, well, she's been through it, so like, what do you do? I don't think too many people are asking me right now what I do. It's like maybe in a few years, like when I'm more successful. They'll be like, don't do what she does. But yeah, it does feel really nice, because it's like you've spent so long in that many hours training, and then all of a sudden you stop hockey and you're like, well, like, how do I help or give back in some way to something that's given me so much? And that's something that's really hard to do, especially when it's like, you know, I was dropped. It wasn't like, you know, the nicest way out and everything's like fairy tale. And as I said, it happened how it was meant to happen. So it's, how do I guess, give back in a way? And I think for me, it's letting players reach out. It's still doing those bits and pieces of coaching here and there. But I don't love coaching that much. I'd prefer to talk about, like, how are you going? Yeah. Like, what's going on for you? Like, that stuff I actually quite enjoy. Yeah. Was that something that you would do as a teammate? Because obviously a lot of team sport is getting the most out of your teammates to be the best team that you can. Is that your kind of... I don't think I did that much. I wish I did. I was more just wanting to be nice to everyone and, you know, and everyone to be happy, but caring what other people thought and being like, but now, now when I play club hockey, I'm such a different player as I was then. Completely different. How I speak to people on the field, how I contribute, how, you know, and the girls do as well to me, because it's just that whole dynamic has completely changed. When I first came to Sydney and I was fucking yelling at everyone, like, being like, this isn't international hockey, it's so shit. And I would have been such a nightmare to play with. I say that now and I'm like, how did you play with me?
And it's just all completely different now. And to get the best out of people, it's like, if I yell at that 14-year-old, she's not going to play very well. And so, yeah, it's just, I've learned a lot. But I definitely didn't do that when I was playing. I wish I had this mind, like 21, that would have been okay. But yeah, it's just learning about it and learning from others. And like people like Madonna Blythe used to do it really well. She always get everyone in, just the right headspace and motivated, and how she spoke, and she did it really well. And I always wondered how, and it's just time and experience. You can't, and just learning about it really. But some people are kind of gifted with it. I wasn't. It was going through a lot of different goods, bads, and the other. And that's kind of where I've got to now, and and how I communicate with people.
For sure. I was talking to Ava de Goda the other week, and she said, I didn't know this, but she took a whole year off hockey after Rio, and she went and lived in South Africa and like played club hockey or whatever, I don't know, and then came back and kind of rediscovered her love for it. It's a difficult thing, that sabbatical idea, because obviously being semi-professional / amateur athletes, it's not like you can afford to just leave the little income you have from hockey and go and do something like that. But is that something that you think you might have benefited from? Yeah,
totally. But I just loved it so much.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have done it. And because I knew that, like, I was a pretty average player, I think, and I just had to work so hard. Like, I wasn't one of those people who just had these natural talent. So I think I felt like even if I missed a day of training, I'm like, oh, I can't do that anymore. Like, it's gone. I just felt like I had to work really hard. So, but I think that's awesome. I think having intermittent time off, just so that you can to prolong your career, really, I think is great, because you see so many girls, especially like wanting families, whatever, and stopping like maybe before like they physically need to just have that time off and to come back is, I think it's an awesome idea. Again, but just being aware that I know when I went to Holland, it's like I gave other people an opportunity to step up.
Gotcha.
As well. So if I did it again, I don't know if I would have gone, but I also, like, that's such a cool experience to live overseas by yourself in a place that, I had to learn Dutch, so that was cool.
Nice. We've spoken a little bit about you building your brand. Do you think that when things weren't going so well, it was a little bit difficult having built up that big brand? That's another kind of expectation that you had on yourself, or not really?
Yeah, no, there was more pressure, like, in terms of that the brands had expectations that I was going to, like, initially I was going to be the face of Nike for Rio. Yeah, fuck that up. Like, I think, like, by not going to Rio, it was probably cost me like 150 grand.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty costly mistake. But again, that happened for a reason, and I think, the media then attention, obviously, people have done similar things to me, and it's just been like, no one knows about it, whereas I had all of this media hype. I wasn't playing that well going into it. Like, I did get picked for the first two, the tournaments leading in, which was basically the Olympic team, got dropped from those for what everyone already knows who listens to hockey. And that was really hard, and that's something that I'm still actually processing to this day, is how do I use that and release that guilt and shame of past mistakes and things I've done, or lies and blah blah blah. Like, I'm only really addressing some of that stuff now, because it's something that like eats away at me. I have so much guilt about, like, not going to those Olympics and what happened that year. But there was the added pressure, but in that sense, it didn't change how, it didn't make me want to play better or worse. It was probably more from like that media sense, and it's a hard one, because they had this, expectation of me on what they thought I was as a player, but then behind closed doors, like, it was like falling apart. I wasn't doing well. I was not really very present at all. but they don't see that. So, you know, and it's funny because if you're with good brands, they support you. Like, I was still with Nike and Red Bull after Rio, and they're like, things happen, like, we're here to support you, like, we know you as a person. And that's because I built the relationship. And same as my stick brand, it's they you know, they didn't just go, oh, see ya. It was they were like, everyone likes a comeback story, except I never had that comeback story. So yeah, they were really, really good people to deal with and really understanding of everything. And you know, when I parted ways with the brands, it was that they were still like, we're going to keep in contact and all of this stuff, and like, whatever you need. And it was a really good relationship. And that's why, like, I loved Red Bull. Were just so cool. I did some awesome stuff with them, and they were, you know, they're with extreme athletes. They've got issues happening all the time with their athletes. So they're just supportive, and basically they want you to be okay. So that was really cool.
It's time again for the Hero of Hockey segment, sponsored by my very own stick sponsor, Voodoo Hockey Australia. Now, we're getting some great responses from all of you. Please keep sending them in. We love to hear about all the people out there doing great work in their community. This week, thanks to Leighton Keane for sending in this week's Hero of Hockey from the Kalamunda Hockey Club in Perth. It's Belinda BJ O'Reilly. Leighton writes, BJ is an all-around amazing person and life member of Kalamunda Hockey Club. You might be familiar with the name. It's the junior club of Kookaburra goalkeeper Tyler Lovell. Now, BJ plays in the women's first team, is the junior coordinator, coach of the J9 10A reserve team, manager of the men's second team, and also umpires matches every weekend. BJ works tirelessly around the club, always helping out in the bar, canteen, and coaching many of the Kalamunda Hockey Club juniors. An inspiration to so many in the club, she does all of this without looking for any thanks or accolades and deserves to be recognised. Now, we absolutely agree, Leighton. Well done for getting that in, and a huge thanks to BJ for doing all you do for our sport. We absolutely love it. You're our Voodoo Hero of Hockey for the week, and you're in the running to win a Voodoo prize pack valued at up to 600 Aussie dollars. Remember, anyone else with someone in mind who deserves some recognition, do not hesitate to get in touch and get your hero in the running to win the Voodoo prize pack. Plus, just for nominating, you'll instantly get a $100 voucher to be spent on a fresh Voodoo hockey stick. Check out our socials for details. You're a marketer now. That's what you do. You do marketing. You're a boss marketer. Just talking about hockey more generally, it's not the most publicised sport in the world. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on where hockey should be going in order to grow as a brand like you grew yours.
Well, one, it's leveraging other brands and people and just starting those conversations and using the players. I think something they tried to do it like a little bit a couple of years ago, and it's like the Hockeyroos, and they do it in basketball so well. It's like they've got these big stars and they're superstars, and I feel like in Australia it's such like a tall poppy syndrome. It's like, oh, they're doing well, let's just cut them down a bit. And it's like there's so many people in a team. It's the people who have been there for a long time, you know, who are willing to do the work, who are marketable, and you're using their profiles and using their content and building these people that people can resonate and go like, oh yeah, that guy, he plays hockey. Whereas at the moment, they're like, who's the Hockeyroos, Kookaburras? Like, you go name a player and they're like, I don't know. It's just like, it has to be familiar and it has to be consistent, and it's going to be quite difficult to get, you know, a whole team sponsored by a really big brand, but potentially starting at the individuals. And I think, you know, FIH has a really big platform. And it's just, I think Australia needs to leverage that. Like, let's still take some of their followers from around the world, and because that's, you know, there's so many. It's like the India, Argentina. Like, I'll try get a contract for, I don't know, clothes with someone here, and they're like, send us your insights and where's your following from, and I'm like, India. And they're like, well, how are we going to sell stuff in eastern suburbs of Sydney? Like, I always been like, oh, I don't want to send you my insights because you're actually not going to get much out of me. But yeah, I think hockey has so much work to do in that space, and it is a really difficult space to be in. I know we've got some big sponsorships and money's really tight right now for companies, so it's even harder. But it's starting at the little things, starting at, getting the local grocery shop to start just easing those certain things for athletes. And then it's basically getting the athletes on board to go, well, do you want to build your profile as a team? Whatever, you've got to start making news somehow. Like, are you going to go to a school? You're going to call up China and be like, hey, the Hockeyroos are here. You have to start like creating some kind of hype around it. And it's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people, they just want to play hockey. But it is so important for the longevity of the sport. If you want to keep playing hockey at this level, people need to be watching it. Otherwise, they're going to flick it from the Olympics. So I don't know if I don't have really any more answers than anyone else, but it's just people need to be willing, I think, is the first thing. And once people are willing to get their name out there and do a bit of hard work and not feeling bad or embarrassed about it, I think a lot of people go, oh no, like I don't want to look like a wanker. And it's just like, just do it. You're the only one that thinks that. And it's like, well, at the end of the day, if you're getting paid more and to look like a bit more of a wanker to, talk yourself up, then who's laughing kind of thing.
Is it something you care about? Is it something you're passionate about, or is it something you only think about when you get asked on a podcast?
No, I think about it. I probably whinge about it more often than not. In like, what are we doing? And I know that Hockey Australia are working really hard because it is a really tough. That sponsorship game is a really tough market. But I think it is also hard that like Hockey Australia is in Perth. And then, like, that's why, again, I had a manager over here. My opportunities came from the eastern side, from Sydney. I couldn't really get anything in Perth. And, like, my manager basically is like, I can guarantee you can get cars over here. It's a hard one. I know it's in Perth. I don't know, how much longer, etc. But it's then having to, how do you get those opportunities and everything from the east when everyone's in Perth? Or are you flying people over for opportunities? And that's what I did off my own back, but it'd be really awesome if they had some kind of budget to get people over here, or like while you're here, like you're here now, it's COVID, getting interviews, getting on Sunrise, getting in whatever magazine it is, and you're having a day and you're smashing it out, and then they've got all of this content going forward, especially going into Olympic year. And that's what happened to me. It was like I probably did 2 days of PR, and it was just like all of this constant stuff rolling out pre-Olympics, which that kind of bit me in the ass, but it was good for hockey. So it was just getting the sport out there, which that's it. That's just what we have to do for the sport to survive. And it'd be like, it would be like, I was watching people play soccer the other day and just kicking a ball. I'm like, that is so unsatisfying. Like, if I go hit a ball, it's satisfying. Like, hockey is a good sport. You just need to get more people around it.
Do you think it's produced well?
How so?
Like the product on TV? Because you spent some time, as we mentioned before, with Star Sports and you're presenting. You spent some time in that space.
Yeah, I definitely think they can make it more fun, something different. You've got the standard commentators. I don't know on that one, to be honest. I think like that was a really awesome experience for me, and I also think it was great because I knew the guys. So it was really, they were like very like, I don't want to talk to the reporters. And then I was like, hi. And so they'd come and have a chat. Yeah. And I think there are so many people who want to do that, getting the athletes more involved rather than like Joe from England who does the commentating. I think you like using the athletes, putting some money in the athletes' pockets. I think that'd be awesome. And you know what you're talking about as well. You know the players and, I may not have when I was in India, but I did like a 15-second interviews. And I was still like, oh, but it was really cool experience, and again, my following grew so much from that. Yeah. Because again, just being in India, so getting the players to do that. You're growing their following. You're growing these like heroes, and again, that's when people start resonating and remembering those names, and then you're getting sponsors and all that kind of stuff starts happening.
So the growth comes from the individuals within the sport. That's your philosophy.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I keep comparing it to basketball, and
They do it incredibly
They just
well,
do it
don't they?
so well, and they've got these. Like, you go, you ask a kid and, they could be following the Lakers, but they'll have like a player.
Yeah.
They'll have a player.
Yeah.
And even growing up, I was upset. I love Katrina Powell. And I was just like, she's amazing. Or Nikki Hudson, like, she's amazing. Like, you have these heroes.
Yeah.
And I think...
Where did that come from? Was it just because you saw them play in the Olympics? Or
Yeah, I
know
did.
Trini's from Canberra.
Trina was from Canberra, so and she was the captain, and I saw her play in Sydney. And then Nikki Hudson, she was playing like my first year of AHL, and because she was captain, so it's just it was a good player. I was their goal scorers. Sucks if you're a defender, you're probably not going to be one of the heroes, but I really think that's the way to go, because there's only so much you can do, because that individual is building the team name as well. But then it's hard again because it is a team sport. It's who gets what. But if everyone wants to do it, then that'd be awesome.
Did you ever struggle with because you were very, very active, and you definitely grew the brand of the Hockeyroos in general. You had, as I've said this before, but you had a massive following. Was it difficult to be a part of the team and still be pushing that message?
Only when I wasn't playing well.
Yeah, okay.
When I wasn't playing well, I got pushed back, and it wasn't necessarily the players, more like the coach has been like, well, you're getting these opportunities. This girl's playing better than you. Why are you doing that? I was like, because I worked my ass off. But I remember it was before Rio, and I was going to fly to Sydney because I was going to sign a car deal, and the coach was just like, no, you can't, like, you're not playing well enough. And then I remember just being like crying. He's like, all right, you can go. And then I decided I couldn't go because I was like, I don't want to jeopardize this, and things like that was really hard.
So you weren't allowed to go because you weren't playing well enough, like because you were going to miss training, or because why?
I might have missed one training, yeah.
Seems missed one training, but that's strange.
So things like that were hard because it is, flying from Perth to Sydney. I did a few where I did like an event with Nike and Red Bull on a weekend. I went to Formula One. It was really cool. And then my flight was delayed, so I got back at like 3 a.m, and I had to train at like 7. And things like that where and then it was like, you shouldn't have done that. And I was like, oh, damn it. That was quite difficult to then you trying to do the right thing by the brand and the team. And then, people are like, we should be doing team first. But you also have these obligations, and that, like, it is quite difficult. But I think once people could understand that this actually is going to help the team and the sport in general, when you kind of get out of the bubble, it's sort of a bigger thing. It's allowing people those opportunities, especially in hockey, because they don't come by very often. And, we can all, basically, the amateur players, like any kind of support, especially financially, that you can get, kind of take with both hands.
That's a really interesting point. Food for thought. All right, we're going to finish with 3 quick questions. I say this tentatively because when I say quick questions, everyone just tends to answer them like as quickly as possible. That's not really the point. The point is answer the question organically.
Okay.
Best player you've ever played with? She's thinking. You can't see it at home. She's thinking very hard, screwing up her face.
Casey Easton.
Casey Easton. Why is that?
She's like naturally just so talented, and then just such a, like, look at her, such a great athlete. And yeah, she was so young as well when she came in, and I just think like her stick level, sort of compared to everyone, was really outstanding. She could just do everything. She could play a striker or a defender or whatever. And yeah, I think she's just really talented.
Best player you've ever played against?
Amar.
any tournament in particular where that really, because that one was a bit easier to answer than Casey?
The last I played against her in her last tournament. I'm totally
Rosario?
on that. Yeah, no, was it on that Netflix show? What's it
Oh,
called?
yeah.
Lucha or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
You can like see my ponytail. I'm like, what does it mean? Yeah. I think like one game we might have shut her down all right, but every time what she could do, because she held her stick like right at the end. She had like these go-go gadget arms and just did the sickest stuff. And yeah, she was unreal. So I can't really pinpoint a tournament. But her and Leadavai, Wilton, she was, because I played against a lot of the Dutch and Holland, as well. I was like, wait, does that make sense? And yeah, that was because like, obviously, like, you know, when it's just like a peg lower, I can really see their skill level. Yeah, it's pretty outstanding.
Okay, last question, and I know you've given a lot of good advice over the last hour and a half, but one more piece of advice, and you may have already answered this, you might not want to change your answer, but to build a brand in an amateur sport, what are a few tips?
Look at what's marketable and how can you be marketable yourself, I think, and get help. Like, it's with everything. It's with hockey, mental health, everything. Get help, especially if it's, you know, if you've got a family friend who can help you out with a stick sponsorship or something. And then, the girls up and coming, it's looking at these, there's amateur managers, then there's next level. Just, I think, looking to get help in that space, because there are opportunities there, but you just need the people who know people. Like, I don't know people, but other people do.
Beautiful. That's it. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for the tea too.
No worries.
Beautiful. That's it for another episode of The Help Side. Special thanks to my production team of David Moore and Tim Collier, plus countless others working behind the scenes to get this to you. You're the real MVPs. Again, if you're liking the show, please like, subscribe, you know the drill, and get in touch with us via our socials. We would love to hear from you. Anyway, that's all, folks. See you next week.